At the camera. I'm ready.
Zan, are you ready?
Yes. This is me looking at the camera. I am ready.
You say you're ready, but are you ready?
I think I'm ready.
Do you have all your questions? I mean, we really have a hard-hitting interview today.
We do.
And we're going to hit him with some amazing questions, super tough questions. I hope he's ready. But happy Saturday, everybody. My name is Adam Asher from The Edge of Adventure.
I'm Zan from Where Gals Wander, and it's always Saturday here on Wander to the Edge.
Yes. It is. I don't care what day you're watching this. In our hearts, it's Saturday.
Yes.
It's our favorite day of the week, and we're hoping we can figure something out to get more Saturdays inserted into the week.
Yep.
I'm a big fan of I would have them back to back. What do you think, Zan?
I think any day that ends in Y should be a Saturday.
Why, you ask? Zan, I think you should tell us the awesome guest. Tell us about the awesome guest we have today so that everyone will just stay with us through the intro and get to know him today.
So we have a guest, and his name is two names. It's Todd Scott or Scott Todd. No, it's Todd Scott. And he is a Winnipeg resident, fantastic nature photographer, duct tape artist, traveler, underwater window washer, canoe guide, TED Talk representative. He's an interesting guy. So probably more interesting than us. So we should probably just get started right here on Wander to the Edge. Hey.
Hi guys, how you doing?
Good. So what is your name?
My name is Todd Scott.
And why is that confusing to people?
Well, because my mother's maiden name was actually Todd, so I'm actually named after my grandparents. So when we would go traveling, we would stay with my grandparents, and we would be booked under the Todd family. And so we'd be staying at a resort, and people would say, "Oh," and they'd call me Todd, and it's like, "Oh, is your name Todd Todd?" It's like, "No, it's Todd Scott." "Oh, so it's Todd Scott Todd." It's like, no. It gets confusing. And actually, Todd is actually my middle name, not my first name. So I actually have 3 first names or 3 possible last names.
Do we get to hear the first name?
Yeah.
No, I don't like to use it because basically that way then I just know it's the only people that call me that are either the government or a school. So
I'm just curious if your first name is me because your social media handle is me, Todd Scott.
Yeah, well, there's another Todd Scott. When I was setting up social media years ago, there was another Todd Scott who was a photographer in France. And so I had to come up with, and a friend of mine said, "Well, you're me. I'm me, Todd Scott, that Todd Scott." So that's how it sort of started from there.
Got it.
I hated it initially, but I love it.
It's me, Todd Scott.
It's me, Todd Scott. Yeah. But I do have to, when people talk on the phone, or I talk to people on the phone, I'll have to always say my first name and my last name, just so it's like, "Hi, it's Todd Scott phoning," instead of "It's Todd." Even friends that I've known for years, or if I phone my mom, I'm like, "Hi, Mom, it's Todd Scott." I'm like, "Yes, I know you're my son," but it's funny.
Well, speaking of social media handles, so one reason that we do this little thing that we call Wander to the Edge is we like to have folks that are kind of part of this bigger, almost like travel tribe.
Yeah.
And you are sort of I don't know how to classify you, which I think is because like
boxes.
You don't have a travel blog per se. You don't have a website.
No.
But when it comes to like road trip chat or some of the other chats that are on Twitter, like you are out there talking about your travels, showing your photos, like people know who you are. So you're sort of traveler incognito, secret Identity traveler.
I'm traveler adjacent, so I'm like the bag that they take along with them. So yeah, but I have a lot of my travel is in North America, and I've been lucky enough to know a number of really sort of popular, really sort of amazing travel bloggers, and I've become friends with them over the years, and so it's been sort of this nice process of I'm not in that industry, but I like it, and I get to go travel and explore Manitoba. That's where I'm from, is in Manitoba. We're in the center of the country, so if you not know where that is, if you know where North Dakota is, just think north of that. That's what's north of North Dakota. So we're sort of like the wildlings in Game of Thrones. We're way up in the north. But this is a beautiful province, and it's one it's forgotten about because it's in the prairies, and people just think it's flat, and they think it's unremarkable. They think it doesn't have anything that's really redeeming. It's just flat. So they'll go to Vancouver, they'll go to Calgary, they'll go to Toronto, Montreal for cosmopolitan sort of things, and Winnipeg is kind of it's Winnipeg. But when people do come here, and they see the photographs, they see the things, and they experience it. It's one of the most surprisingly underrated cities in Canada, and if not in North America. Where it's kind of like when you go to Minneapolis. Minneapolis is a fantastic city, but it's underrated. People always think of Chicago or other places like that versus Minneapolis, but we've got there's a real charm about Winnipeg and Manitoba, and it's in my heart, and I love it.
Todd, why are travel bloggers so obnoxious?
Why? They're not obnoxious. They're just really, really lucky, because I think we're all jealous because they get to go travel for subsidized, but they're not as bad as the cake people who basically write and then tell their entire life story to tell you how to make a cake. And instead of like the 3 pages, like you get like 80 pages, and then you get like the recipe that's this big. So travel bloggers, fantastic in comparison to food people. So
yeah, it's like,
just tell me how to make the cake and that's it.
Right. Excuse me, I can do this. I'm a foodie.
Yeah, exactly. Just give me the details. Just say like, put egg in thing, and that all works out. But with travel, there's so much nuance, and there's so much little details that are there about sort of going into some little shop or getting that mood across, and that really takes words and photographs. And I usually use a lot more photographs myself. And I know, Zane, I'll post things on Sunset Sundays and stuff like that. And you'll always go like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. It's a great shot. And that's been part of the fun of associating with some of the travel people. And haven't found them too annoying, but there are some really amazing people.
It sounds to me like you just like coming in and then just wrecking it.
Yeah. It's well, don't make too much of an impression on things, but I like to. I seem to make an impression when I go places. Like recently, I ended up getting my vaccine and ended up social media trending as a result of it, because I ended up dressing up as Fred Flintstone. So it was easy because you had easy access to your arm to basically sort of get the injection. Plus, it was also really easy in the sense where it hides my pandemic body, so and it works really well. And then when I get the second shot, I actually get the Grand Poobah hat, so it will work out well.
Something to look forward to.
Yeah.
Just recently, on the medical briefing for Manitoba, they ended up mentioning me, and I'm like, oh, okay. So this is a typical sort of, according to today, this is a Saturday, so just a typical Saturday.
So tell us a little bit more about the Fred Flintstone costume to get your vaccine. How did all that come about? Or is that just something that you wear every now and then out to, survive a pandemic?
I don't own a Fred Flint. I didn't own one up until like about 2 weeks ago. But I was thinking of, there's a lot of hesitation on people getting the vaccine. And over the years, I've taught CPR and first aid and other things like that, and used a lot of humor to teach. And so I was thinking, if I'm going to get my vaccine, I'm going to have fun. There's other people who've dressed up in ball gowns and other things like that, and they've just had a blast. So I thought, I'm going to have fun with this. And I can wear this pandemic outfit where it hides my my little girthy bits that have gone on over the winter, and there's no problems with buttons in public breaking off or whatever, and it works. And it made the people at the super site laugh a lot, and they had a great time. And that's kind of one of the other things too, is that it takes away some of the fear from some of the people, the anxiety of getting a shot, so that we can go back to doing things like travel. I love Manitoba, but I've been stuck here for 18 months, and I am ready to even just go to Saskatchewan. So it's even flatter than we are, but I still want to go there.
Todd, the Fred Flintstone automobile, is it difficult to drive that?
It is. It is, because not walking as much over the pandemic. It's made my feet a little bit sort of softer. So the calluses haven't built up. So that there's some problems with that. Yeah.
Okay, so
Shane's just like, where did that come from? Okay.
I should have expected it. I do want to mention, based on the efforts that you're doing now to kind of relieve all the anxiety associated with the last year, and now trying to kind of go through into the future, you've actually written a book about kind of your well, I'll leave it to you to explain.
Well, yeah, I wrote a couple of books this year, and I've always written and put things aside. The one reason why I don't have a blog is because I never thought anyone actually would want to read what I wrote. And it's like, well, I'm boring. They don't want to find this out. And then people end up reading things on Twitter that I've done, and they enjoy it. But the book was originally written. The first one was a guide on alternative reasons to wear a mask. So a number of humorous looks at why to wear a mask, and it put it on Amazon. It was just as a way of just getting a book just to test it, to see what went through the process. The next one that's coming out now is actually a book on things worse than a needle. And so our premiere ended up a couple of weeks ago, ended up saying that the media shouldn't show photos of people getting the vaccine because the needles scare people, and all the blood. And I don't know if when you guys got your shot, if there was lots of blood. Literally, they didn't even put a Band-Aid on me. It was just like, that's how much blood there was. And it's writing things that sort of make people laugh, helping them sort of to get out of that nervousness, and sort of moving that nervous energy into more endorphins. Because if you can start to laugh, the endorphins start running, and that fear, fight, or flight sort of kicks in and goes into sort of a happy response. And then you've built more of a happy memory with something versus sort of being scared, and you've got the adrenaline kicking in instead. So I found that over the years, when I teach CPR and first aid or anything medical, is always end up using more humor to help with that. So,
well, you've even given a TED talk on teaching CPR, and it's exactly what you say, where you're trying to bring in a sense of humor and help people kind of relax about a topic that could be tense, right? You could be kind of nervous about it. Well,
it's as serious as a heart attack.
What was the paint the picture there, because the name of the TED talk was what?
An intergalactic guide to using a defibrillator, or what an AED is. And originally, my dad had died of a heart attack when I was 4. And so this is something that I've known since I was a kid, that I'm probably going to die of a heart attack at some point in my life. Not at 44, but I'll maybe have it at 84, because of lifestyle choices that I've made. So food, things like that, how you live life. Um, though the pandemic, basically, I'm eating everything in sight, and it doesn't help. But the talk was basically, I took the Star Wars universe and I drew crappy sort of little kids drawings of what Star Wars characters would look like, and then I explained the complications of using an AED on those certain individuals. So things like with Wookiee, Star Troopers, Stormtroopers, they're pretty much toast because you can't get the pads onto their chest in time. It takes forever to get the layers off. Jedi, on the other hand, the shirt just opens straight up and pad, and you're good. But you do have to watch out for like tentacles and stuff like that, so you don't get shocked that way. Wookiees, hairy chest, things, you got to shave them. Plus, they've got accessories you got to remove. And so, looking at some of the different sort of complications, and then making it sort of something you can relate to, and then remember, oh, okay, I have to do that, and it sticks in your brain. Like a joke will stick in your brain more than fear in some cases, I find. But fear is pretty solid there, but it helps distort things a little too much.
When you do the drawings, and you mentioned that in this, and then also with the previous book,
Right.
one thing that I love is like you'll go out to Twitter and ask questions about what scares you and what would be some scenarios that would be worse than blah, blah, blah. And you take people's responses and translate them into something fun and silly, I guess is the best way to kind of put it, to diffuse that. And although you are a writer, but you don't have a blog, and you are not a travel blogger, but you participate in all the travel chats, you just kind of bring people together in your own way. And that's another reason I wanted to have you on our show, is because you don't have to have the big flashy website. You don't have to have all the, followers and likes and everything else to show that you can contribute and to add to the community and make an impact on people's lives, just in the little things that you do every day, Todd.
Well, and that's, thank you very much for saying that. But it's true. Is there's a need just for people to be honest, or to be so themselves on social media. And I know there's a lot of people like yourself who you're very approachable. You're very personable. You have you aren't an account. You are a person. And I know I can joke around with you on social media. I know I can make you'll be talking about something, and I can end up drawing something as a joke for you, and then you end up sort of using it as like, well, your dog ended up drawing your dog, but you still have to see Labyrinth. You haven't seen it yet, I don't think, but you still have to go see the movie Labyrinth, though. But it's that process of just sort of it's sometimes people get to like, I'm happy to contribute, and I've done famous things in the past. I've done things that are funny, that have got a lot of impressions and seen a lot of stuff. But the biggest thing is just, it doesn't matter how many views you get one way or another, as long as you're still being yourself, and as long as you're having fun doing it. And I love the interaction with the people that I talk to. And when people say they hate Twitter, I love Twitter because there are all these people that you can interact with. Like right now, it's the process where I get to interact with both of you. And I know, Adam, you sort of look a little tired today, because you were talking earlier. You're feeling a little sort of, this COVID stuff has been hitting you, and it's just it's rough. It's rough. And you want to take a nap, and you can. But it's that interaction. Like right now, you're smiling, and that is one of these things where part of that interaction that I can use my odd sense of humor, because I am odd with a capital T. Basically, that's Todd. It's a good way of remembering it. But it's that little bit of humor or introduction that I can put into someone's day that really sort of makes a difference. And that's kind of one of the things that I like to do, is that if I can make just a tiny, tiny, tiny little bit of an impact on someone's day by making them smile. It's good. My
Our
day's made.
guest, our guest today is Todd Scott. He's not a blogger, but he is a jogger.
Yes, a thinner me. Yes.
So, what's going on? First of all, there's two
Okay.
things we need to talk about: the size of these shoes because they are huge.
Yeah. That was part of that. Those were made for the Boston Marathon about 2006. I was working for a duct tape manufacturer. I was their national spokesman, and I would build sculptures and send them around the world and do talks all over the place and such. They wanted this is a pair of Asics shoes. We ended up building them. They are foam and duct tape and a little bit of cardboard yeah, they're a lot of fun. I actually ended up making another copy of these that I used. We were trying to develop a kids' TV show around 2008 to about 2010, and I made a pair of these that you could then walk across water. And I know you guys have in the States, you have Shark Tank, but in Canada, prior to that, when Kevin O'Leary and the other guy, Robert, what's his name, before they went down, they were in Canada and they were on something called Dragon's Den. And so I actually pitched them about a kids show and made these giant shoes. And so Robert actually was tucked into one of these giant shoes along with one of the other hosts. But you can walk across water on them. Displacement. It was a process to look at.
What are they made of? Are they made of duct tape? I see
duct
some.
tape. Yeah, there's a lot of duct tape on the exterior is duct tape. The bottom part is foam. So like rigid foam, and then it's carved to sort of get the shape, and then the sides are cardboard to sort of get the rigidity that I needed, and then basically it's just duct taped and duct taped and duct taped. But it was a neat, fun piece. And people, when they were doing the Boston Marathon, would come afterwards at one of the booths, and they would end up taking a shot of themselves running in them. We also made a giant easy button for Staples for that event. And so people, as they're running by, they're hitting the button. And unfortunately, I couldn't get it to make noise. I'm not very good electronically, so I couldn't end up to figure out a way that they'd hit it and they'd make a buzz. But most of my pieces or anything I do usually has a lot of humor built into it.
Okay, so let's get to the bottom of that there. So making things out of duct tape.
Yeah.
This was not a one-time thing for you.
No, I actually bought a house because of duct tape. I had paid my mortgage for about 10 years based off of duct tape. So I have a science degree. I'm 2 credits short of a double major in biology and geography. And I got bored and started building stuff out of duct tape. When I was on a geography field trip down in Arizona, a friend's wife was complaining she didn't have anything for Valentine's Day. And we had run this running joke where I would end up, I'd have a roll of duct tape. And so we ended up, when I was doing botany classes, we would joke around about taking flowers and then piecing them back together because you had to dissect them. And so I thought, well, I'll just make the duct tape. And I started making petals and I started making the stuff and stuck them together and created the first duct tape rose. And then handed it to my friend to give to his wife. And then she's like, oh, quiet for the rest of the night, which was nice. But, and that sparked the next set. So then after I would build more stuff and I would make more things and just sort of have fun with things. It was a stress reliever. And using the study aids, I would make flowers and I would figure out how the petals were attached and the stamen and all the rest like that. And it just sort of snowballed from there. And then before going on to do a master's, I decided to take a year off and I was going to write for a year. I thought, well, I'll try writing. I enjoy writing, but I'll try and write. And I got bored after about a week sitting in coffee shops in Victoria and ended up working in one of the markets selling the duct tape flowers and made more and more pieces, sold more stuff, ended up getting on some national television stuff with it, And that then led to building a full-size replica of Babe Ruth out of duct tape for a duct tape manufacturer out of the States. And then every year, just more and more and more of that. I also have a duct tape tattoo on my leg too, from the company. I won't show you because I may or may not be wearing pants right now due to the pandemic. So it is a Zoom call. So just we won't go there. Yeah. Use your imagination, people, or not.
So this just sort of started organically. You started doing these art pieces out of duct tape, and you said that you became a natural spokesperson for a duct tape company.
Mm-hmm. I have a horseshoe up my backside, and I'm one of the luckiest people where I just stumble into the right position at the right time. And I may not have the right credential, like I may not have the formal education for something, but I end up usually being the right person at the right time at the exact right moment. And that's been how my life has gone. I'm very, very lucky, but there's also a lot of hard work to get there. And that's always been one of the things is just sort of the duct tape stuff was I kind of created my own position and had a lot of fun with that. So it was good.
Todd, my next question, it goes something like this. Where is the rest of this bicycle, and why didn't you just tape it together with duct tape?
Well, this was prior to duct tape. I was still using masking tape at this point. So
Understand.
This was when I think I was 19 at this shot. It's 18, 19. And a buddy of mine and myself, we decided to set up and create. We were in junior achievement. I don't know if you guys have junior achievement in the States or not, but it's a youth program where they sometimes will you'll set up a group of people to come together and they make a business, and they run it for 5 months. And so start to finish, you learn all the ins and outs of business and your kids, and you come up with a product and you sell it and you try and make money. And a lot of the times you don't. I was working with 2 companies over 2 years, and we ended up actually making money every year. And we ended up sort of doing really well. And then one of the guys that I was in that program with, he was a biker and stuff like that. And we started playing around with stuff and ended up making, because he had a bracelet that was a bicycle chain bracelet, which was simply just a chain wrapped around, and then you just put the pin back in and you slid it over your wrist and go from there. I started playing around with some of the more stuff, and you can see from the photograph, like the one on my wrist there, I actually disassembled the chains and then put jumper rings in them, and they created a lighter bracelet, and it was easier to get on and off and didn't leave grease marks on your hand, and it didn't hurt as much. And then sort of built more stuff and used recycled materials, and it was just sort of experimenting just to see what was going on. And ended up getting on national TV with that, ended up sort of getting exposure, ended up selling a fair bit. But it was just sort of, I just wanted to create something for a while and then go and do something else. That was fun. And I do know how to ride a unicycle too.
How do you ride a unicycle?
Yeah.
Balance yourself. So I used to be on the provincial team for kayaking for Manitoba. And so when you're on racing boats, they're extremely thin boats, and they're very, very, they're very tippy. So if you fart the wrong way, you fall out of the boat. And it happens. And I've been when I was training to learn to do those, I fell out of the boat 50 feet from the dock. I fell out 35 times in a 2-hour time period. Because you're just trying to get the balance point. You take 3 strokes, and then as you fall over, then you take 3.5 strokes, and then you'd fall over, and start the process over again. The unicycle was extremely simple in comparison because I could hold onto a cabinet and then sort of go along, figure it out, and then it's just momentum and going from there. So if you ever get a chance, unicycles aren't that hard to learn, and they're so much fun to play with.
I know what I'm getting Adam for his birthday.
Yeah, exactly. Unicycle.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's like you were going to get me a bicycle, but then you saw the sign that said 50% off.
Exactly. And just make sure you're wearing a helmet, though.
Hey, what was it like being a baby?
Well, there was ups and downs, highs and lows. Everything seemed out of reach at the time, but you grow into the possibilities of the future.
Did they send you down to the red light to collect change?
Yeah, no. I just ended up sort of. I was just like, yeah. I was. This is the point where I was going from being an extremely ugly looking baby to being a little cuter. My mom always, for some, because I was cross-eyed because my eyes were really, really big in my head as a baby. You can see the monster cranium there as a kid, and mom thought I was cross-eyed. I thought I was special needs, and kept checking with doctor friends of ours, like, is he okay? And it's like, no, he's fine. He's just got a big melon. He'll grow into it. So they usually hid me away most of the time, though, due to the big melon head baby. So yeah.
You said you are very
Zane's
close.
just shaking your head, going like, "Oh man."
I don't know what it is. I don't know if Molly recognizes you, Todd, and all the great sketches that you've done of Molly, but she just came racing and charging up on me and just shaking my whole desk here. So I was, yeah. Earthquake preparation, that should be your next subject in terms of, how not to be afraid of earthquakes and what to do.
Exactly. Or large dogs that charge your house. Yeah.
Same thing.
By the way, Zane, is that actually your backdrop there? Is that like a photo drop,
No,
or is that actually there?
It's actually there. So it's like big tapestry kind of.
Oh wow,
thing.
that's beautiful.
Yeah. So
that is gorgeous.
I love this, and with the whole Zoom life, I spend so much time looking in the camera that I wanted to have something pretty behind me.
Yeah, that's beautiful though, and unfortunately, Adam is stuck in a void of some sort or another.
Yeah,
so, I can't get out. I've been here for 18 months.
It is it's the pandemic void, and it's there'll be like a little tiny thing floating behind him.
Whenever I'm in this room, I feel so blue.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm not going to start singing the song.
Please don't.
No.
Speaking of scenery.
Yes. That's you caught my better half. Yes, it's the better angle. When I take photography, I have a thing for culverts, and I have a habit of taking shots in unique angles. And one of the things I found out is a trick to take photos is lay down. And that's my photo trick, is basically is people say, oh, how do you get these great shots? I said, I lie down and I take the shot from the ground. And generally that's one of the things. And this is from my friend Heather, who, if you are looking at some phenomenal nature photographs and you don't want to see my backside, follow her. She's Second Nature MB, phenomenal naturalist, phenomenal photographer, and knows everything about anything. And she's my off-grid Google. So if we're doing something outdoors and we don't have an internet connection, I'll just turn and say, Heather, do you know what this is? And she's like, blah, 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 and she knows exactly what it is. And so she always laughs whenever we do photo trips, is I'll be leaning over to try and get a shot into a culvert. And I love just that sort of the blackness, that void space, and then it narrows down to this little pinpoint of light and this little silhouette of light and color, and it's just kind of a neat shape, and I've always kind of loved them.
At what point did she call an ambulance?
She hasn't yet. It's usually sort of I'll making some noises when I'm getting up now, and it's kind of like rolling over, but it's luckily she has some medical background stuff too, so which works.
Well, I just didn't know if you were hurt there in that picture, but I see. So you were actually taking the picture, and let's see. So is it a picture like this that you were taking?
It would be like that, yeah. Except this one, I'm actually in the tunnel.
Go into that, because this is a fascinating thing about your photography and your particular niche, I guess.
Yeah, and it's just, I just love culverts. Like, we're flat, and we've got these just horizon shots that go off from where you have, and so I'll walk into, like, this culvert was probably 5 feet tall, and so I can crawl into it and then take the shot down the culvert, and then just capture that horizontal shot This is in winter because you can see the ice is frozen, and hence how I can get in there when it's still okay. But I just like that it's almost like a portal, and I find it very mystical and magical, and kind of like when you're a kid, you'd read the Chronicles of Narnia and stuff like that. Then when you'd want to find a way into a different world, and this is kind of that type of thing as an adult, sort of trying to find those little bits. No dead bodies or animals that I found yet, so which is good.
Well, speaking of animals, you also take some amazing shots of animals as well. And
I get lucky sometimes, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, can you share with us a story or two about some of the animal encounters that you've had?
Yeah, well, I mean, this is the bison. Yeah, this was there's in Manitoba we have a number of large animals that we have. The bison are usually more sort of in enclosures. This one I was doing photographs of a herd that was out in a field, and there's a large fence, luckily a very large fence in front of me. And I was sitting there for maybe 20, 30 minutes and not moving, and they slowly made their way across the field a couple of times, and they almost sort of like, if you look at birds, you know how when birds move, they move sort of in this sort of fluid sort of group and then sort of come back the other way, and you're not seeing them sort of going like making a beeline straight to you, but they're kind of going like this way and then back this way, and then eventually they get here. So it's kind of like sailing where they're tacking to get a spot. And so they would come across, and then suddenly I realized that this bison is about maybe 15 feet in front of me. And my long lens, which I've been using to shoot them from across the field, is now giving me a shot of this bison's head very, very close up. But just a phenomenal creature to look at. But I've been doing a lot of, we also have a lot of birds here too in Manitoba. And swans. All last summer I kept getting swans constantly, like everywhere I'd go, it's like, oh look, there's another swan. And just some great experiences there. And then flowers.
You've actually had some of your photographs published in a book about Manitoba.
Yeah.
There's
I did one where my friend Heather and Carrie, we went out, and Marnie, we went out skating on I lived by one of the big lakes. If you look on a map, you see Manitoba. There's Lake Winnipeg and Lake Manitoba on there. And Lake Winnipeg, the 11th largest lake in the world, when it freezes in a very, if at certain times of the year, it freezes at a point where it's just a sheet that's maybe 6 inches thick, and then goes for miles, and you can skate. So we were out there when it was about 8 or 9 inches thick, and my friends were laying down on the ice, and we were ice skating, and one of them fallen down, and the other ones fell down beside them, and I just had the shot of them laying down on this sort of vast flatness, and then the color of the horizon basically blended in with the ice, so it was kind of looked like they'd all sort of flow together, and it was kind of like you're stuck in the void that Adam's stuck in right now, except it was sort of a more sort of an icy blue.
An icy blue.
An icy blue. Yes, that's more of a cobalt.
We don't get the icy blue in Atlanta very often.
No.
Once in about every 7 years, and when it happens, it shuts the city down.
Oh, exactly. It shuts everything down for you guys. Yeah. I've laughed is when you guys get like this much ice, it's like your entire city shuts down.
Yeah, that's kind of a sore spot with me because we don't have anything to treat the roads in Atlanta. And so ice is ice. Yeah. And so they just shut the city. Well, the smart thing to do is to shut the city down because when it freezes in these little hills, and we're so, we're out there, we're like, oh, because I remember I tried to, the time you're talking about, I was at work.
Yeah.
And I was in downtown, and I was trying to get home, and I was like, I wasn't worried about it. I'm like, you know what? I got 4-wheel drive, no big thing. But you can't go anywhere when there's a line of cars in front of you, right? Yeah. And we had that, and I spent the night at a Mexican restaurant.
Well, which is good. I always sort of was joking around about when, and that's hilarious. Is that like when even in Canada, there's sections of Canada that you get this much snow and it shuts down the entire city. In Victoria, where I went to school for my final year, they ended up getting this much snow and it shut everything down. And I'm just like, oh, okay. But it's hilly and they don't have the equipment for it. With you in Atlanta, I had friends who were down there when the ice storm was hitting, and I thought it was really kind of funny though is that you could just I thought, well, if they need traction and they need salt, you could just find those sort of like loose McDonald's fries under your seat, because they're basically sort of the great shape. They've got salt, they're cured perfectly, and they never and they don't fall apart. So just put those under your wheels instead of kitty litter. Just old McDonald's fries. Yeah,
that's a good standby. That's a good backup.
Yeah,
exactly. I haven't tested this one yet, but I some of your audience might want to try this next winter and see if this works and let us know.
Yeah, that's why we wanted to have you on here, Todd. It's survival skills like this that I think are important in order to be able to go through. Speaking of, I any tips that you have for us on underwater window washing?
Don't let the CBC film you. So, which is our Canadian broadcaster. When they ended up actually doing that, I did that when I was 16, and I worked as a naturalist when from the age of 15 on. I was doing group programs and I was doing school programs teaching about nature and things like that. And we had this large aquarium that they had, and it was a freshwater aquarium, and it had a problem where algae would build up on the windows. And so my job was to go in and take a squeegee and clean the windows from the inside, because they hadn't figured out the chemical balance yet. And so went in, cleaned the windows, and the CBC saw this and thought this was really funny. And they thought, oh, great, we'll just put them on TV. And so they put a diving helmet on me and put a wireless mic, and they blew up the wireless mic because electronic device underwater doesn't really work all that well. So it sort of got this sort of buzzing feeling around my nards. And then they tried it again about a day later, and they decided to then we'll put a physical cable. But they put a physical cable up through the diving helmet, the airtight diving helmet, large cable going through. So the mic is here. As I'm underwater, the mic you could hear. But then what happened is that it would start to fill up with water and go higher and higher, and it blew the mic again. And then I'm trying to talk to them, telling them my helmet is filling with water. I'm slowly drowning. Can you please do something about this? And I'm 16, so technically I'm supposed to sort of follow the lead of what adults tell me. And they're like, you're doing well. And I'm like, I'm dying. So yeah, don't listen to them. And then the last time they ended up putting the solid mic up again, but what they did is they duct taped the helmet onto my head, and then went down. But unfortunately, which would be fine, but unfortunately what happened is that they didn't replace the canister of oxygen of air I was using. And to stop myself from drowning the last time, I ended up pressing the purge valve to blow the helmet full of air and pretty much empty my canister of air. So I was underwater doing the interview and then ran out of air just as we finished. So I was like, so they almost killed me 3 times. Yeah. So don't film if you're going to be an underwater window washer. Just do your job, get out, don't let anyone know.
A man of many stories, a great storyteller.
Yes.
Todd
that
Scott.
One I was wearing pants too, which was great.
He's not a blogger. He's pointed out he's not a blogger, and it was something about it being too much writing, and then he told us about the books he's written, so I don't know if I buy that, but he is a great storyteller. He's got a great sense of humor, and he does have you make a good point, perhaps not intentionally, Todd, but I know one of the reasons we wanted to have you on is that we all appreciate traveling and getting around and seeing different places, and then documenting it and sharing it however we feel called to do so. And blogging is you have to be dedicated to it. I mean, to do it, it's a lot of work. And if that's not your thing, and if you're out there watching today and you're like, I don't really do the blog thing, we just want to let you know that you still need to take those pictures, share them, and tag us at hashtag Wander to the Edge, and we'd like to see those pictures and kind of live the experience with you guys too. You don't have to be a blogger to be a part of this travel tribe. And
well, wasn't Twitter originally designed as a micro blogging site? Wasn't that the initial name for it? It was marketed as a micro blogging site?
You're a lot smarter than I am. I don't know, but
I don't know if I'm smarter than you, but
I've
had more coffee today than you have.
I know that when I opened my Twitter account years ago, we're back when it was sort of that revolution where, folks our age were getting into the Facebook and Twitter and all this stuff. And I remember getting a Twitter account and having no idea what it was, how it worked. I had figured out Facebook. I was like, okay, so Facebook, okay, and then you're like, oh, Twitter's like Facebook, it's just different.
Yeah.
I remember that sense of being completely lost. Yeah. And well, come to think of it, I still feel that.
I was going to say, what has changed?
Nothing much.
Do you prefer, what's your go-to social media that you prefer?
Personally, I try to use them all, and it is, so I sort of, there's different types of interaction that you have on the different platforms. They are unique. None of them are the same. And I know you like Twitter, and what I like about Twitter is it is really the platform, in my opinion, where you will meet new people. Facebook is a good place to go to say, hey, you're my friend, you get linked up. It's not really where you go to meet new people. I mean, I know it happens, and you can friend people out of the blue if you want. That's fine. Yeah. But Twitter is where it allows you to find people that care about the same things. Yeah. And however the science of that works, I'm not sure, but it is better at that than Facebook, and they're just different. I mean, depends on what you're trying to communicate, and you have to tailor it.
Yeah. And Zane, what about yourself?
For me, it would be Instagram and Twitter. Adam and I met through Instagram. That's how we got to know each other. I think that Twitter can be a little all-consuming, to be honest with you, because you get on there and you almost start having too much fun. And so you kind of have to dedicate a chunk of time to go on Twitter. Instagram is more like, I'm going to let the photo speak for itself and kind of back away, and you can start to relate to people and connect through that. Mm-hmm. And I've made a lot of good friends through Instagram as well. But Twitter is, it's almost like a party, right? And you can't just pop in to say hi. So.
Oh, yeah, you can.
Well, you do. You do quite a bit.
Which is why I'm not that good at it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I don't know. There's always that bit I always find. And then what's your view on TikTok?
Adam, you're our TikTok expert.
Yes, I went on TikTok and opened up my accounts, the handles, mm-hmm. and proceeded to do nothing with them. And I really don't have the intention of doing anything with them.
Really?
But I just don't want anybody else to have those.
That's the name, yeah. But your work would so lend itself to TikTok.
Honestly, people have told me that. I think, talk about all consuming, right? Yeah. What is all consuming is the fact that there's always another one, right?
Yeah.
And of course, then there's what's the other one now? The
My Chat or MySpace.
MySpace is coming back. That's what I hear. And so you better go to gobble up those URLs. Hold on to those. What is the Clubhouse? Clubhouse, yeah, Clubhouse. Yeah. Is the other one that's everybody is excited about, and they all have their place. And we're kind of to that point though, where you do kind of have to choose. You got to choose where you're going to spend your time, how much time you're going to spend. And so much of it depends on what you want to accomplish, what you're looking for, your personality. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, but it's all good. And the truth though is, I mean, there's a lot of junk on social media. There's a lot of stuff that's probably not good for us. Yeah. You have to seek out the stuff that's good, and then also connect with the people like we have that become, I mean, they become your friends. They are your friends.
Exactly.
And yeah.
Well, Zane was originally one of we know each other through Twitter, and then just sort of go back and forth through Twitter, and we're talking that way. And then she showed up on my Facebook page, and Facebook basically is usually people I went to university with, or high school with, or friends with. And then I was like, oh, well, yeah, I guess Zane is my friend. And so then she's over now on my Facebook one. So it's sort of, I keep that sort of people that I actually like. And truthfully, Zane, it's really I'm following your dog. So, but it's okay.
I know.
But we all, it's true. But
Where dogs wander.
where dogs wander, exactly.
Yes.
But it's always kind of an interesting thing. I've never really understood Instagram all that much. I always have trouble with it. But with your work, both of you guys, I know you're huge on Instagram, and it's a massive platform, and it lends itself so well to the stuff you both do. And it's always kind of interesting to watch. So yeah, but I personally, I'm like, I have no idea what's going on there.
And it's whatever you do, whatever social media you use, and if you're going to make the most of it, it's going to require work. I mean, it is work, and it's figuring out what works and what works for you, and figuring out that sort of that sweet spot. But hey, listen, everybody, this is Todd Scott, and you do need to follow him. He's on social media at me, Todd Scott. You heard me right. At me, Todd Scott. And you'll find him on Twitter and Instagram, though he says it's not.
I've got one, but I don't really use it much.
But I think if everybody will just go follow him, then he'll get so many followers. Then he'll be like, okay, now I got to do this.
You got to post the Fred Flintstone picture on your Instagram, especially since you're trending now in Winnipeg today. Yeah.
Right. So. Well, the thing with Instagram, though, I keep getting dating requests from people sending me things, and they go like, hey, and it's like this sexy woman shot and keeps friending me, and I'm like, this isn't a dating site. This is like me to look at like fancy cakes and food and travel, but it's a weird site.
All right, I'll tell her not to bother you.
That's great. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, Zane, it's awkward. It's awkward. I know. It's like, just send the dog instead. It's all good.
Oh my goodness. Well, listen, everybody, thanks for joining us today. We like to call the show Wander to the Edge. And it really is about this travel tribe. It's this group of friends that care about each other, but we also care about different places and travel and getting out there and living that adventure. And the theme for today has been, you don't have to be an official blogger to be a part of this tribe. You're super important. And you know what? You just share on your favorite social media account, share those things and join us. And we're just thankful for you because you're part of this mess that we've created.
Well, thank you very much. And I was flattered that you invited me, and I was going like, I'm a nobody. I'm just a guy on Twitter.
That's not true. We've established that as well.
Yeah. I'm like Forrest Gump. I just show up in the wrong. I just show up in the right spot. So, and I do like chocolate a lot. So, yeah.
Well, for everyone,
it happens.
Follow Todd Scott and look for us across all the social media platforms: YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. You can find us right here on Wander to the Edge.
See you next week.